Well, good evening and welcome to St. Mark's Church. It's great to see you all here this evening. This is the next in our series of what we're calling Opera on the Oatka. And you probably know the Oatka Creek is right over there. So I think it's a great name for this series. We're very happy to welcome back Heather Davis again. I think this is the third concert in this series that she's done here, so it's really great to have her back again. Also with her accompanist, Priscilla Yuen. She's really an excellent accompanist. So the two of them together are just so much fun to listen to. So with no further ado, I'd like to turn the concert over to Heather.
So she confronts him. He offers to marry Erica, But she's really offended because he's going between like her and her aunt and her and her aunt, which, you know, as you can imagine, would be offensive. So she's worried about Vanessa, who has been locked up for the last 20 years, locked herself up for the last 20 years, so she rejects him. So later on, Erica reveals to the old Baroness that she is pregnant with Anatole's child. She runs away from the house and causes herself to miscarry. A search party is sent out by Vanessa, brings Erica back, and Vanessa is still completely unaware of Anatole's liaison with Erica. She marries Anatole, and they leave together. And at this point, Erica is left alone in the house with her grandmother, who is not talking to her now, and orders that all of the mirrors are covered again, and the gates are closed and locked. And just as before, when her aunt had closed up the house and covered all of the mirrors, Erica does the same and says, at the end of the opera, now it is her turn to wait. So you just sort of imagine that now Erica will wait for another 20 years for this whole sort of scenario to repeat itself. So this particular opera, or aria, Must the Winter Come So Soon, is the opera's sort of most famous aria. It's from Act 1, Scene 1. And Vanessa, in a question to Vanessa, Erica, who I would be playing, asks why the winter must be so long and come so soon, bringing with it this gray dreariness to the forest in which the castle lies, so it kind of sets the scene for the opera itself. So, hope you enjoy. So the next set of songs is, they're all to the same text. So I thought it might be interesting to sort of explore a scenario where you have three separate composers who set the same text. So this text is Stopping by the snowy evening, stopping by Woods on a snowy evening. The poetry is by Robert Frost, who was an American poet known for his realistic depictions of rural life and the command of American colloquial speech. He frequently wrote about settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century, using them to examine sort of complex social and philosophical themes. He's a frequently honored poet during his lifetime. He's the only poet to have received 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. He wrote this poem in June of 1922 at his house in Shaftesbury, Vermont. Some of you may or may not know that I grew up in Vermont, so that's kind of where I have a little bit of a connection to Robert Frost. So when I thought about this, I thought, oh, that would be really nice. And this poem was published in his 1923 New Hampshire volume, and that volume was what he won his first of the 4 Pulitzers for. He had been up all night writing the long poem, New Hampshire, and had finally finished it when he realized morning had come. He went out to view the sunrise and suddenly got this idea for this poem. On the surface, the poem is very simple. The speaker talks of stopping by the woods, taking in this lovely sort of quiet winter scene, with only the sound of his horse's bells, the wind and falling snow. But when you sort of start to reflect on this poem a little bit deeper, it's also this reflection on the themes of nature versus society, personal desire versus personal obligation, the village, which sort of represents society, civilization, duty, sensibility, etc., versus the woods, that's beyond the village and all that the village sort of represents, including this sort of possibility of rest and peace of death itself. The composer, the first composer is Samuel Barber, who also composed Vanessa. The second setting is by Ned Rorem, who was an American composer of contemporary classical music and writing. He's best known for his art songs. He wrote more than 500 art songs, so very prolific in art song writing. Many of the songs that he wrote are part of song cycles, so he really stressed the importance of like a cycle's overall structure, paying close attention to the song order, the progression of the keys between songs. His main interest was really in art song was the setting of poetry rather than the sound of the human voice. So that's something a little bit different. A lot of composers are kind of the opposite. And then the third setting is by John LaMontagne, who was an American pianist and composer. His compositions included symphonic works, chamber music, ballets, opera, choral, solo works. He received a Pulitzer Prize in music for his concerto for piano and orchestra in the time of war and studied composition and piano at Eastman, which is my alma mater and where Priscilla also went and works. And his first orchestral works were performed by the Eastman Rochester Symphony under Howard Hanson. So again, I hope you enjoy this next set of Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, set by 3 different composers.
Watches boys,
made sure that there was Italian on this program. So, word to the wise, if you guys put it in your requests, you might get what you asked for. So this song is by Francesco Paolo Tosti. He was an Italian composer and music teacher. He wrote more than 350 songs, so again, very prolific in his songwriting. Interestingly, for the time that he was composing in, he never wrote an opera. He was a court singing teacher in Rome, and then moved to England in 1875, where he became a singing teacher in 1880 to the royal family of London, as one does. By 1885, he was the most popular composer of songs in England, and in 1894 joined the Royal Academy of Music as a professor, became a British citizen, and then in 1906, and then was knighted actually 2 years later by King Edward VII. He then returned back to Italy to pass away, basically. He was like, okay, I'm getting to the end of my years, and he wanted to die at home, so then he went back to Italy after all this amazing time in Britain. He is known for his light, expressive songs, which are characterized by sort of natural, singable melodies and sweet sentimentality. This particular song tells the story of sort of the end of a relationship after this season of love and smiles, and issues a word of warning to the next woman. If she has faith in your promises now, after this spring of love and wonderful feelings, she will also have winter. So, word to the wise. to complete a program evaluation survey. These are important because I have to provide the survey data for the grant that I received in order to provide this programming. So if you prefer to complete the survey on paper instead, I do have paper copies at the back there. There's sort of like a little half sheet. Yeah, if you wanted to grab one during intermission. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone completing those surveys for this evening's programs and program, excuse me. And we'll be back shortly. Thank you. Okay, so our next song is Winternacht by Richard Strauss. Strauss is a German composer and conductor, best known for his tone poems and his operas, considered a leading composer of the late Romantic and early modern eras, and has been described as the successor of Richard Wagner and Franz Liszt. He's a prolific composer of Lieder, which is a German art song, and often composed with the voice of his wife in mind. This song is earlier than that, and is part of a set of 5 songs for middle voice, and it is dedicated to his aunt. This poem and 4 other songs in the same song cycle. This poem was written by Adolf Friedrich von Schack, who was a notable member of the Munich cultural elite. He was a member of the Academy of Sciences, a notable art collector, and prime mover and shaker in Bavarian literary life. So, you know, he was getting out there and doing literary things. This particular song exhibits this sort of Straussian word painting. You can hear the wind blowing around and the storm in the piano, which then gives way to this sort of gentler portrayal of the drifting snowflakes and the thoughts of, you know, springtime and his love. That was really a tour de force for Priscilla, so I feel like she should get like an extra bow for that one every time.
See what I heard outside.
Well, and I was saying earlier, like there's a lot of music that I could not program if Priscilla was not my pianist. I'm very lucky to be able to work with Priscilla because she enables me to choose sort of whatever I want to sing, and I know that she's going to be able to handle it, so that's an amazing you would not hear usually on a program. This is 2 songs by a Japanese composer. So this I sort of found, and I thought, oh, this is really lovely. My middle brother lives in Japan with his wife and their son, and so I thought, oh, this will be so nice because I can, get him to help me with the language, and it'll be a nice sort of point of connection for the two of us, which it was. And he actually did the translations for me, so you'll see it translated by Derek Davis, and that's my brother. So these 2 songs are composed by a Japanese composer, Kozaburo Hirai, and he was a composer and professor of music. He studied violin, composition, and conducting at the Tokyo Imperial Academy of Music from 1923 to 34, and then went on to teach there at the Academy from 1937 to 1947. He composed many pieces for orchestra, piano, and traditional Japanese instruments. These 2 songs are taken from a set called Japanese Flute, which was composed by selecting 21 poems from the collection of the same name by Hakushuku Kitahara, who was a Japanese tanka poet. He was regarded as one of the most popular and important poets in modern Japanese literature. Tanka is originally the term used to distinguish short poems from the longer chōka, which is long poems. And it's a genre of classical Japanese poetry, and one of the major genres of Japanese literature. Consists of 5 units, treated roughly by the number of syllables per unit or line. And this will sound familiar to you: 5-7, 5-7-7. So it has this additional 2-7-7. We're all very used to haikus, but this is tanka. In the notes for this song cycle, Hirai indicated that the poems in Japanese flute highlight a rich Japanese culture that spreads from the north to the south of the country and vividly depict the climate and humanity of each part of the country. Having known the poetry since being a child, he was unusually passionate about composing these particular songs, and he completed almost all of the songs at once. The first song, Yama wa Yukikayo, a snow fantasy, and the second song, Wataridori, winter song, are both in the northern style with a taste of melancholy, which create this sort of bright contrast if you're listening to the entire set, with those songs from Japanese flute from the southern country, which are more sort of tropical and bright and full of romantic dreams. From his description of the songs, Yama wa Yukikayo is a song with playful gestures and full of expression. The prelude represents fluttering light snow, and the development depicts a blizzard. So you'll hear fluttering snow and a blizzard happening, which, as you've heard, there's a theme here within all this music. Lots of snow and blizzards. And Wataridori is a song that sings of the loneliness of winter's withering. Even within its smooth and light singing style, it carries a profound melancholy. So, enjoy.
Thank you.
So now we come to our final set. December, a lot of the times, winter is the time when we think about Christmas for a lot of people. So these three songs are all having to do with Noel, Christmas. It's a French set. We have a song by Gabriel Fauré, Noël. Then we also have Noël des enfants qui n'ont plus de maison by Debussy, and Noël de fleurs by Massenet. Two of them are sort of, how do I say, this set, the idea of it was having something that sort of had to do with Christmas, but that wouldn't be anything that you would typically hear when you would hear Christmas music programmed. So it's not typical music that you would hear in a recital that is sort of Christmas songs. This first song, Noël, is by Gabriel Fauré, who is one of the foremost French composers of his generation, regarded as one of the masters of French art song or mélodie. This particular song was composed in 1885 as an occasional piece. It's sort of like a little Christmas ditty performed with harmonium when available to add this sort of festive carillon sound to the piano accompaniment. The carillon is a musical instrument of bells that are usually consisting of the 23 sort of harmonically tuned bells. They're typically in the bell tower, so it's that do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do sound that you hear a lot, and you'll hear that in the piano. This song depicts the scene of the baby Jesus laying in the manger as the three kings present him with incense, gold, and myrrh, calling for people to follow this pious example of the kings and exalting baby Jesus, who will then go on to become king. The second song is the one it's sort of the most different from a typical Christmas song that you would hear. This is the song for basically homeless children. It's composed by Debussy, who is a French composer, sometimes seen as the sort of first impressionist composer, although he seemed to vigorously reject those terms. Among one of the most influential composers of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This particular song was composed in December of 1915, so that was the second Christmas during World War I was approaching. And this was the last song that Debussy would compose. He had cancer by that point and was composing very little. And this short song shows this sort of side of Debussy that's rarely thought of. Typically, you often associate him with impressionistic music. It's these sort of long lines, very dreamy sounding. This particular song is sort of very direct and very percussive, and the text was written by Debussy himself. It isn't what you normally think of when you think of a carol. It describes from the point of view of the children, their struggles. They're homeless, orphaned. Their father has gone off to war, their mother has passed away, their school has been burnt, their teacher has been burnt, the church has burned down. Even the sort of old man who can't get away fast enough has also been burnt. And instead of their old Christmas wish of toys, their wish now is just for their daily bread, and to grant vengeance for the children of France, Belgium, Serbia, and Poland. For me, one of the sort of most poignant moments in this particular song is at the end of the song, where the children talk about they don't have clogs anymore. The clogs was the Christmas tradition in France, kind of similar to us hanging our stockings, and that's where your oranges would be put, and your little toys and your candies and things at Christmas. And they say we don't have clogs anymore, so we've sort of now put away these childish things, and what we want is really vengeance for the children of France. So childhood things are over, and now we're just sort of in this adulthood phase, even though we're these little tiny children at Christmas. And then the third song and final song of the set and of the program is Noël de fleurs. That is by Jules Massenet. He was a French composer in the Romantic era, best known for his operas. He wrote 30 operas. Most frequently staged are Manon and Werther. And he also protection and guidance. Jasmine, symbolizing, associated with purity, love, purity, hope, renewal, divine favor, and roses, which symbolize beauty and earthly love, rained down from heaven upon the Christ child. Interestingly, and you wouldn't notice this from hearing it, the text, il pleut, changes from pleurer, just to cry and to weep, the first couple of times that you hear it, and then it changes to il pleut, spelled with a T instead of an R. It sounds exactly the same when you're singing it, which is pleuvoir, which means to rain. So perhaps sort of this idea of symbolizing tenderness, compassion, or joy in the first kind of, it's weeping these flowers down, or it's crying that the flowers are sort of crying down, to this idea of life and growth and renewal now that the baby Jesus has arrived. So, that was a very heady little discussion there, but I hope you enjoy these last three songs, which are all some version of kind of Christmas carols. And administered by GoArt. So if you aren't familiar with GoArt, great organization. There's lots to do and lots to see in our area. You can go to their website. It's goart.org, and they have a whole calendar of things that are going on, arts-related things that are happening in our community. So go check them out. And then I also wanted to say thank you to my community partner here, St. Mark's Episcopal Church, with special thanks to Leslie DeLuz and Dennis Melander. Where is Dennis? Dennis Melander. I was like, he's here somewhere. Dennis Melander and Sue Lentz for their assistance. Stan Kosak, who helps me a ton with all my promotional materials. Priscilla for joining me me in musical collaboration. Again, there's a lot of music that I would not be able to program if it weren't for Priscilla's amazing abilities at the piano. So I'm really grateful for that. And of course, my family and friends, my tiny person who's asleep there so nicely through the whole program, for their support of me and preparing for all of this. It takes a lot of work, a lot of preparation, a lot of hours to be able to present all of this, so I really appreciate that. And many thanks to GoArt and its amazing team for their continued support and their assistance throughout the grant process. So again, thank you all so much for choosing this to come to tonight when I know there were lots of options of things to go to, and you know, the weather is not the greatest, but you all made it, and I'm really appreciative, so thank you so much, and have a safe drive home.